Okay, our next item, are there any changes to the agenda?
I have none.
Council? No. Okay, we have approval of the agenda?
I'll motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second. Roll call, please.
Councilman Vosberg,
Aye.
Mayor Horn,
Aye.
Councilman Hedgecock, Councilman Schindler,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Ramirez,
Okay, we'll move on to our next one, awards, presentations, appointments, and proclamations. Item number 1, 2023 report, quarterly report, quarter 1 and quarter 2 Mid-Valley Disposal. Isaac.
Good evening, members of the council, honorable mayor, city staff, Isaac Kulikoff, Mid-Valley Disposal. Thanks for having us out here tonight. I think kind of post-pandemic, it's time to re-engage these meetings at the city's request and also because it's a good thing to do. So we're out here to provide a quarterly update on happenings in your community with the recycling department and some operations sprinkled in as well, special events. Since SB 1383 has been implemented, we've hired well over 15 staff to robustly enforce those items and assist cities. Tonight I have here Thomas Hammond. He is my programs manager for South Valley operations. So he has about 4 coordinators under him, one of them that's dedicated to this city. So he's going to get up here and just briefly talk about, I think 3 and 4, Q1, 2 of 23, special events, things like that, maybe some tonnages, cleanup events, things like that. This will be a regular quarterly event, and so if you have any questions afterwards, I'd be happy to answer any as well. Good to see everybody again, and with that, I'll introduce Thomas Hammond for the report.
Thank you.
Thank you, Isaac. Thanks for having me, Mayor and Council. I am Thomas Hammond. I am the South Valley Recycle Program Manager, and I'm going to go over your Q1, Q2, 23 update. So tonight we're going to talk about site assessments, recycling audits, education, events, tonnage reports, and a little Cal Recycle update, kind of what Isaac kind of alluded to. So I'm just going to jump right in. Let's talk site assessments first, right? In 2022, the city of Coalinga auto-rolled out recycling and organics to comply with AB 341, which is a commercial recycling bill, and AB 1826, which is a commercial organics bill. We did an auto rollout to make sure you were 100% compliant on both of those bills before we jumped into 1383. So that happened late 21, late 22. So in 23, we were checking on that implementation to make sure that the contamination minimization was happening with those rollouts, making sure that they're being compliant, getting rid of the right refuse in the right stream, or recyclables in the right stream, or organics in the right stream. We site assessed 117 commercial businesses in Coalinga in Q1 and Q2, 25 multifamily dwellings, and 6 residentials. When we go and do those site assessments, if we find contamination, we give continued education. I'll show you a couple slides from here that shows you the kind of education, but we basically educate the generator on what goes where. And so implementation and compliance was in the beginning. Education happens after the assessment. We also talked to them about illegal dumping, if they're having transient activity or residential dumping in their cans, what they can do to kind of combat that, whether that be a locking mechanism or locking their enclosures at night, different options. And we also speak to them about bulky items, right? Refrigerators, washing machines, dryers. We offer a bulky item pickup service that we would love the residents to utilize. So we just talk to them about making sure that their bulky items don't make it into the trash stream because they go in a different, it's a whole different ball game with that. So we just give them information about how to get those services taken care of if they need it. So, you know, site assessments went well this year. I'll be honest with you. The city of Coalinga is just probably a model city for all the other cities that we work with right now. You guys do a great job. I say you guys, but the city does a great job making sure that The generators are staying compliant, and yeah, it's been a treat to work with the city of Klingon on site assessments and all the generators, commercial generators. Recycling audits are something that the drivers do when they go to dump. They'll look inside of the can. If they see something that is contamination, they'll leave a notice on there letting the generator know what the contaminants were. And we, as the recycling department, then take those audits, these contamination tags, and we educate those generators via a mailer or a phone call. It's typically a mailer. That way they can get an instructional service guide, which I'll show you in a second. But the recycling audits were amazing in Q1 and Q2. There was not a lot of contaminants per the drivers. We had 26 residential cans that had some contaminants, only 8 commercial cans from the audit that were contaminated. So a total of 34 notices were given to generators, which is a very small number for 2 quarters, I'll be honest with you. Some cities were issuing 300 plus a year. So to see this number that low is just a testament to what you guys as a city are doing and what we are doing to educate the generators. This is the education material that we give out. If you look on your left, you'll see Senate Bill 1383. That is the organics bill that we're becoming compliant with. The Senate Bill 1383 on the left and the instructional service guide on the right both went out as mailers this year to comply with your 1383 education requirements. We sent them to all the generators, so everybody, residential and commercial, should have received one. When we go to do a site assessment and we find contamination, we also give an instructional service guide with the pictures to show kind of where things need to go. There's a QR code in the bottom of that flyer that takes you to a website that has an even more in-depth list of what is accepted and not. So very useful tools that we've been giving to the generators. The one in the middle is an HHW education that we've been giving out lately. At times when we do assessments, we'll find light bulbs, antifreeze bottles sometimes, oil bottles, stuff that's not accepted and we consider household hazardous waste. So when we do find that in an assessment, we make sure that we educate them on why that's not good. And it's mainly because it's a hazard for our drivers in the trucks, batteries, they can explode, and then it's a hazard for our MRF facility when they're separating the materials. And that's really the education that we've been giving out so far this year. All of this, like I said, was mailed out, and it's also available in City Hall for anybody to grab whenever they'd like. Events. So part of our continued education process is that we go out to events in the city and we talk to all the residents that show up and we give them education about recycling. We also give out guides, but we play kind of an interactive game where we spin a wheel and it has different commodities on there and you have to tell us in what stream it goes into. Great turnout. I had never been to the Horn-Toad Derby before, and it was a blast. I loved it. Can't wait to go back next year. And then we did National Night Out event. For us, that's really a special event. We're giving back to the community, especially the children that may need school supplies. I think we handed out 2,200 to 2,400 out pencils that night in bundles of 5 as part of that whole process. We did give education out as well to the parents and even to the students. So those are the 2 events that we did in Q1 and Q2, and we look forward to doing more in Q3 and Q4. Cleanup event. You guys held a cleanup event on May 6th from 6 a.m. to 1 p.m., and we serviced 502 residents, which is a really big number for a one-day event. So the turnout was great. You have a fall cleanup coming up, and I hope that we have that exact same turnout, if not even more. Total tons disposed of at that event was 85.72. So yeah, it was a good event. So here's your Q1 and Q1 tonnage report. Refuse was 4791, recycling was 717, organics was 1149. The special thing about this is that we saw your organics jump from Q1 to Q2 by almost 200 tons. Now I understand we had rain and we had green waste and there was some extra vegetative growth, but it just goes to show you that the residents and the generators are actually utilizing the green can. To have a 200-ton jump from Q1 to Q2 was pretty big. So again, it just speaks to the fact that the generators are continuing to do the right thing. Last but not least is the CalRecycle update. We are on the cusp of 2024, which means that state enforcement on local jurisdictions is going to happen, and local jurisdiction enforcement on generators has to happen. So we've taken from 22 to 24 to look for contamination compliance and educate the generators on what needs to be done. And now we're on the cusp of having to enforce those rules, right? So this is just a little timeline. We're right at the end of it. The 75% reduction in organics and 20%, we have some ways to go as a state, I'll be honest with you. We're not probably going to reach those goals. But you guys here in Coalinga are doing an exceptional job with the diversion and helping that diversion rate go down. So I have another one, and it's another schedule reminding that in 20 to 24 we did compliance reviews, route reviews, inspections. We weren't giving notices of violations. We were giving notices and then giving education. But in 24, that's going to change from education, which we're still going to give, but you're also going to have an enforcement fee attached to that, or you're supposed to. Now, it's up to the city on how you guys want to do that, but 2024, the regulation kicks in and says that's what's needed from the jurisdiction. That's pretty much all I have today, guys. Like always, like Isaac said, we appreciate being part of the community, and you guys have any questions, I'm all ears and ready to answer anything you guys got.
When's the next cleanup? Is it in November?
It's in November. I believe it's in November. November 4th or 7th? It's first weekend of November, I believe. I have the flyers ready. I've sent them over to staff. They're reviewing it. Once they get back to me with the review, we'll get those flyers out to the city, get them down to the residents.
Sounds good.
You were talking about contaminants, hazardous home materials that you guys don't take in.
Yeah.
Do you have material like where people should be dumping that stuff? I think a lot of times people don't realize maybe they just think to themselves, hey, I'm just going to try and get away with it because I don't know where else to put it.
Yeah.
So do you have information on that?
We do. If you look at your cleanup flyer when you get it, it actually gives you locations to drop off HHW material. I don't think that our HHW education specific has locations for Coalinga or any other jurisdictions. It's kind of an all-in-one flyer. But on the cleanup flyer, there's definitely information, and we can get you information if that's what you would like. Yeah.
Well, I just think that it might help if you guys are finding hazardous stuff that maybe informing the public on that could stop them from doing it.
100%. Yeah. The next time we do a mailer, we can definitely list HHW.
The county, Nathan, also does a biannual pickup.
Okay.
You have to request it
that's
on
right.
the county website.
Okay.
And they will come curbside and pick up what you got, old chemicals, paint, things of that
And I
nature.
think Park and Rec held the deal at their area too.
Correct. And we also
Yeah.
we may not, but historically, we've had flyers in the mezzanine over there where people pay their bills that direct people to HHW, universal waste, batteries, things like that.
Perfect.
Resources. So.
Thank you.
Isaac, real quick, is there a possibility you can get us that information to a county person that we can actually get a hold of and see about doing that?
100%.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that'll be me, and I can take care of that for you.
Okay.
Not a problem. I mean, it's listed on the county website, all county websites for that matter, Fresno County, Kings County, Tulare County. They have a list of HHW locations that is readily available. But to get you something that's specific to the public here, we can definitely do.
Thank you. Any more questions? No, think we're good? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, our next item is 2023 Quarterly Report, Quarter 2. Gimme love.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. Thanks for having us tonight. As promised, we're going to start making quarterly visits and giving you guys a report. I wanted to share with you guys a couple of events. I think the last time I was here, we were talking about some of the state government and legislature trying to push for no-kill state. That took a left turn back late in 2022, but it's kind of revisited and making a new appearance. I just wanted to point out a couple things that are really interesting, and then I'll give you guys the Q2 report, I promise. And then at the end of that, I will kind of give you an update from January 1 to present. I was just reading this morning, back in 2020, the city of Los Angeles declared that they were a no-kill city. And they got a 90% animal save rate, which is awesome. I wanted to share, and I won't elaborate too much, but one of the comments in late 2021 was Los Angeles City became a no-kill city, which is rather impossible with the population that they have. It's a great job by them. But it says, founded on a small city in the Central Valley of California that became a no-kill and bolsters no-kill and educational process to their community. So they don't say Coalinga, but I can assure you they're talking about the city of Coalinga. We still live by our belief and our system. So I just wanted to share that. I think that's pretty cool. Los Angeles is doing their thing, and I think it's because of what we're doing here as a city and the relationship that we have with Gimme Love. So hats off. Wanted to talk about the absolute gratitude we have for our devoted 24 volunteers that make it happen every day. We're still a volunteer-based shelter, nonprofit. Want to thank your 25th member, your executive director, and vice president back there, my wife, who makes it happen and still does all phases of the job every single day, and makes it happen. So with that, I will give you the Q2 report on our calendar year. So we're talking about April, May, and June of 23. Just a phenomenal job again. Canines, we took in 112 canines, 100 felines, for a total of 212 live animals. We relinquished back to owners 68 canines, 5 felines. Transferred from the agency in-state was 0 in Q2. Transferred from agency out-of-state was 0 in Q2. Oh, I'm sorry. I got that all wrong. Excuse me. Let me go back really quick. So a total of canines was 181. Felines was 105. And other was 2. I think one was a pig, one was a chicken. So we had a total of 288 for Q2. Adoption, we adopted out 16 canines, 5 felines for a total of 21, and 1 other, I think, was the pig. Return to owner was 18 canines, 2 felines, for a total of 20. We transferred in-state 130 canines, 51 felines, for a total of 181, which is phenomenal. Just unbelievable. I'm reading this kind of for the first time with you guys. We had pass in our care 1 canine and 31 felines. We had an upper respiratory, I believe, disease that went through that the vets couldn't handle, so those passed in our care, 31 felines. We got to get that better. So that is pretty much the totals that we brought in and the totals that went out. To give you an idea of, I don't know if you have information from the Q1, but going into January 1 through present, we've had 373 canines, 280 felines, 2 other still there. A total adoption rate of 29 canines, 8 felines. Returned to owner 58 canines, 2 felines. Transferred in-state 215 canines, 190 felines. Transferred out-of-state 46 canines. which we have to give a huge shout out to South Coast Humane, who came and picked up 39 of our canines, and they're coming back in September for 5 more of the large dogs, canines. So to give you guys an idea, Jennifer Alcorn of South Coast Humane would be kind of the equivalent. In the animal world, she would be the equivalent of like Michael Jordan coming to Kalinga to sign autographs. So in the animal world, that is a huge deal. Huge, huge deal. So it was awesome. She came herself to Kalinga to check it out. Spent some time here, took those animals. Awesome. Awesome. So we follow her on Facebook. Again, want to give a shout out to our volunteers who are transporting to Paso week in and week out. Every Wednesday, we're doing spay and neuter runs on the grant that we were able to obtain early in Q1, I believe. There's still funds there, and we're still doing the weekly runs, and will be for quite a while.
On average, how many more animals do you think you're still able to do? So I know you guys had, I think, 500 estimated, I believe it was.
Hold on.
500 planned is what we asked for, $80,000 for 500 animals. We are about, you have the tools written down there, but we are about halfway there, and we should complete the 500.
We're close to 300 now, so there's
quite a
room
bit.
for, a couple hundred more. So the trips will keep going. It's free to the community, and we do ask for a $10 donation for fuel, which, also we're hopefully going to get a grant, but seeking donation of another van. The one that we had that was so generously donated by the city is making a lot of trips, still running good, but it's getting a heck of a lot of miles on it, and we just want to make sure that we have a backup plan in place, so we'll be seeking that. We have done approximately 800 vaccinations that we continue to do, and about 400 microchips. Again, our volunteers, I don't know if you guys have walked through the shelter lately, but we've got some pea gravel that was placed in the back. We had basically 3 volunteers, Nancy, Jeff Coach, Sherry Gregory, Kevin, I can't think of his last name, Kevin Moore. They stayed back there with shovels and wheelbarrows and brought that stuff back, 7 tons of pea gravel. I had that one in ER. She got sick and we couldn't come, and I felt really super guilty. We were in King City while they were doing all that. But it looks great and it looks fantastic. They went through the back in our small dog area and stripped the floors and painted them with concrete paint, painted all the kennels, and still there every day to do the dishes, feed, clean litter boxes. It's unbelievable. Their ability to do the regular day and then still show up for that is unbelievable. With that, that's pretty much a wrap of what I got, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I got one stupid question.
No such thing.
So well, you wait and see. So the few of the rats that you guys have that are kind of taking over a little bit, is there a way or possible way for you to catch them and somehow get them shots or whatever, and take them to like pet stores to sell?
So that, I didn't hear the first part of your question.
The rats.
The rats?
Yeah, the rat. I know there's been a rat problem off and on.
So the rat problem is so fierce in that building that it's almost impossible. We have the bug spray guy,
Right.
Terminator, whatever. We've got traps set up that they use. It's really, man, it's a catch-22. We've had to remove a couple because some of the poisons get out if an animal gets a hold of it. I think we've had one pass from that situation, or they take the poison, the dogs get a hold of them because they fall into the kennels. They tear them up. It's really getting better, much better than what it was a month ago and even 2 months ago, which was way worse. I believe now, you know, one of the biggest problems is having them fall through the ceilings, you know, in the office area. And, so, you know, unfortunately, the cats usually take care of that. We don't have any means, time, or,
How often does the bug guy come and check the traps?
I believe he's coming once a month.
you know,
So
once a
we
month.
moved a lot of stuff and changed a lot of things around to pick up any extra, you know, to keep the rats from nesting or eating all the food and stuff. And it is much better. All this stuff's out of the small dog room except the kennels and the dogs. So everything's stored in big metal trash cans now with lids. So.
And they
it is
haven't
much
chewed through those yet?
better. No,
Not yet.
Yet?
But we were able to go purchase those that had sustainable lids, and so keeping that stuff under wrap has helped. But, you know, they were, you know, in the back area, in the little courtyard in the back area, you know, you walk out there on any given evening and, you know, there's, you know, up to 300 to 400, you know, coming across the lines and hanging out on the top of the buildings and watching you until you leave. And, you know, so we had to limit the portions of food that we could give because, you know, if the dogs decided they weren't hungry for 30 minutes, it was gone.
Yeah,
So that was a challenge, but we're getting through it slowly but surely.
that's good.
Not a stupid question.
Any more questions?
I just had a comment. I just want to say that we appreciate everything you do, you know, on behalf of the city and the residents. It's pretty amazing, thankless job you guys and your volunteers are doing out there. And I know that almost everybody really, really appreciates it, and I just want to really, really say thank you.
Well, that means a lot, Nathan. We appreciate that. And I just, one more time, just a shout out to our volunteers, who should all be volunteers of the year. You know, you know, if you guys have an opportunity to come by, you know, at lunchtime or 10 o'clock in the morning or something like that, and just kind of come through and talk to those people, absolutely amazing. Really quick, Mark and Sharon RC, when they were here, they started a walking program that we still to this day call the RC Dog Walking Program. You know, when they left, we freaked out because we didn't think that anybody would ever pick that back up and create something as good. And it has taken off, and they're doing an amazing job. Now, when Mark RC comes back in October and gets put into the West Hills College Hall of Fame, don't tell him I said that. I'll deny it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the next item, citizens' comments. This section of the agenda allows members of the public to address the city council on any item within the jurisdiction of the council. Members of the public, when recognized by the mayor, should come forward to the lectern, identify themselves, and use the microphone. Comments are normally limited to 3 minutes. In accordance with state open meeting laws, no action will be taken by the city council this evening, and all items will be referred to staff for follow-up and report. Citizens' comments submitted in writing to the city clerk by 5:00 p.m. on the day of the city council meeting shall be distributed to the city council and included in the record. However, they will not be read. We have anybody that would like to speak?
Hello, Hilda Crawford. I think it's District 1 with the Coalinga District Library. I'm just announcing our upcoming event, which on Sunday, these are going to be Sundays, we will be partnering with the Coalinga Chamber, and we will be having our Fall Festival. So it's Sunday, September 3rd, and Sunday, September 17th at the Coalinga Plaza. It runs from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. On September 3rd, come visit the vampires. We will be having a blood drive, hosting a blood drive for the library. And we will be also having events, and I know we're going to have, we had them this summer in our summer reading program. They're really neat to watch, and you get to learn the African drummers. Our director has been able to get those. So I'm just going to give you guys two little flyers that you guys could put on your refrigerator. If you know of any vendors, please let us know. They can either come to the library, get on the website, and they can get the application information. So thanks to the chamber for allowing us to partner with them, because sometimes we don't get a lot of people at ours. I mean, when we've had them in the past. So I'm looking forward to having it after church. If you have nowhere to go, just come to the plaza on the 3rd and the 17th. And come join us for some fun. I guess hopefully we'll get vendors and we'll have that ready for, you can come in and instead of going to have lunch somewhere else, you can have lunch there. But thank you. So I'll be passing these out to you guys real quick. That's why I'm cutting it short. But thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak? George?
Hello, my name is George Anderson. I just wanted to, probably should have did this before. I just wanted to remind the city of a save the date, October 27th, 28th, and 29th. Give Me Love Animal Shelter does a pretty awesome haunted house. This year, we're going to actually be doing it as at a resident house, and we will announce the address at a later date. But it was very successful last year, and we have some awesome volunteers that are going to even make it more successful this year. So Halloween time is going to be a whole lot of fun. So just wanted everybody to save the date.
You'll have to get pictures for us because most of the council won't be here. We'll be out of town on that weekend.
Okay. Well, you guys are going to miss a heck of a haunted house.
Yeah,
So
videos, pictures.
I would change my plans if I were you. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Good evening.
My name is Ruth Thurman.
I'm Tina Yaden. Today we come to you guys to let you know about a couple of the charity events that we are hosting. Ruthie is hosting a blanket drive. Would you like to comment a little bit about that? Okay, last year she did this. She was able to collect over 500 blankets that were donated, made or just secondhand, and she was able to give them out mostly to homeless population.
We gave it to the whole community, and it was at the Pink Parlor, so anyone could come and grab one or two.
This year, she is hosting at Sea, Sky, and Shelter at 192 East Elm, Suite 103. And it's going to be Sunday, November 19th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. There are a couple of drop-off locations, Gina Bell's Garden and Yaden's Gold Star Wellness. And anyone in the community can literally just drop off blankets on the front porch. We'll take them and hold them for Ruthie for when the time comes. We do have flyers that we will hand you guys for more contact information. With that, she and I have collaborated. I'm hosting my third community clothing exchange. It's also been called a clothing swap, and I'm finding that the community is struggling with what that means. But basically, the community has donated. My business, I encourage wellness on any level. So that means cleaning out a closet, cleaning out a dresser drawer, anything that helps, just kind of purge. And they've donated these items for the clothing exchange. This is my third one I'm hosting. I host one every fall and every spring. It's the third weekend of September. The community has been so generous. Super excited. I just did a bathing suit exchange. We do prom closet. We donate formal wear to the high school for their prom closet. We've had high heel free giveaway with the high heels that have been donated. Sea, Sky, and Shelter has opened up a window for us to be of community service on many levels. We also do activities. We have sip and paints. We have crafts. We have free activities. We have children's activities. We have kid-led activities. It's just a whole gamut of community activity going on down at Sea Sky and Shelter. I also am doing aqua yoga, chair yoga, water therapy, all kinds of amazing things happening here in Coalinga. So, anything else? Did I miss anything? Do you have any questions? Anyone? Okay.
I have a quick question.
Okay.
Is it just an indoor event, or you're doing like out in the parking lot or something?
The event actually is on the sidewalk.
Okay.
So all of the giveaways are in front of Sea Sky and Shelter on the sidewalk.
Okay.
And we have tables and/or clothing racks, and we have signs, and we go lives, and we just, we have a Facebook following, Instagram following, and we just tell everyone they need to come out. And then people see us out there, and they may have not heard of it, and so then they'll go and quickly clean out a closet and bring us more things. So whatever's left over at that point, at the end of the weekend, my husband and I drive to St. Agnes for the Women and Children's Shelter, and we donate all the women and children's clothing items, undergarments, socks, anything that's left over that we would better serve that community, goes there.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we also speak Spanish.
Any more questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to item number 4, public hearings. We have none. Our next item is 5, the consent calendar. We have any items? No. We have an approval for the consent calendar?
So I'd just like to, for the public information, to pull 5.3, 5.9, and 5.13. Five, 3, yeah. 9 and 13.
Okay, we'll start out with item number 5.3. Councilman Vosberg.
Yeah, I just wanted to give, to get a brief update on the peddler's ordinance. I had seen posts on the city's Facebook page talking about peddlers and that we currently have none registered. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So that means that there should be nobody going door to door trying to sell things. Is that correct?
Correct.
Does that include solar companies, alarm companies, people like that?
Any company like that, yes. So they can come to your home if you are considering doing business and you call them and invite them to your home. But just going door to door randomly, they should have a peddler's permit, and at this time, we have none issued.
So what should residents do? Because I just got a message from someone today that said they had seen people going door to door. They had a clipboard in their hand. She explained to me that it looked like one of the alarm companies that has a little clipboard that says, what different alarm systems you have and things like that. And she was worried that, they might not be the company they say they are. And so what would you suggest residents do?
So I first want to clarify that there will be certain types of business that can come door to door without a peddler's permit. So like if there was a situation with PG&E going on, you may have someone from PG&E going door to door, or if we had an issue with a city water line or gas line, we may be going door to door. That's usually to provide information. We're not there to sell you anything. So if there is someone who they think is trying to sell things, or maybe they are doing something shady and they're just unsure, they can call the PD's non-emergency number, or they can call our code enforcement officer.
Okay.
And then the PD's non-emergency number, I believe, is 935-1525, and our code enforcement officer's number is 935-1533, extension 141.
Okay. And to add to the list of people that, are approved to be doing that, even though, you know, they're not trying to sell anything. I think people get kind of confused, but like real estate people doing appraisals on houses, they're allowed to do that. Because I also had somebody say, hey, you know, someone's out taking pictures of houses, and I immediately thought, you know, that's probably an appraiser, but, you know, still, I mean, so are appraisers allowed, you know, they aren't selling anything, so they're allowed to do that type of activity, correct?
Well, they can take pictures from the street, but they shouldn't be going on anyone's personal property.
Yeah, I think they were taking them from the street, but it still got people worried, you know, like, hey, what are, you know,
To go along with that, is there any way that we can put an ordinance or something to change that so they have to go through the police department before they can go do that?
That is the ordinance.
Is there a way that we can get it somehow enforced then?
It is, as long as we know that they're out there. So if someone calls and says that, so there is a recent example, there was a pest control company, which sparked this whole discussion. There was a pest control company out of Fresno that was going door to door, and on Facebook, somebody posted that they tried to open their door and walk into their house. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but that's what the Facebook post said. So someone called the city, and our code enforcement officer actually went out and made contact with them and had an officer respond because they got very confrontational with her. And they were informed that they could not be doing business here. They didn't have a peddler's permit. They didn't have a city business license, and so they did leave.
so would that be something that we could get added onto our app?
To report peddlers,
Will report, yeah, something like that. I mean, whatever it, you know, I mean, I'm just saying if the idea is that you're going to tell people to call code enforcement or call the PD, you know, you may as well put it on the app.
so we can put it on the app. The only problem is if they call the non-emergency number or they call code enforcement, they're gonna get an immediate response. If they put it on the app has the geotag, so they may say this person's at this address, or in this area, but by the time we pull it up on the app, it may be like 2 hours later before somebody responds. So we can do that, but I think if somebody wants an immediate response, they need to either call code enforcement or call the non-emergency number.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Move on to item number 513. Oh, okay. Item number 59. Councilman Bosberg.
So I just wanted to briefly go over how is this survey, this is talking about the road diet survey, and I think a lot of the public doesn't know what road diet in general means. You know, and when you're talking about, hey, we're going to take 4 lanes down to 3, in the survey, I think that still people aren't understanding it's actually only going to be 2 usable lanes. It's not going to be 3 lanes unless you're talking about just using one to turn. And so I just want to make that clear, and from my understanding, is that correct? That it will be 2 usable lanes and 1 lane used to turn? Yep. Right? And then the other thing that I wanted to just make for the public is how will this be sent to the public, and how will the public be able to respond to this? For those that aren't, you know, updating and reading our agendas and clicking on the consent calendar.
Larry's put together basically a Google form, so it'll go through a Google form, and then it'll be put out on our social media website and put it out that way to residents.
Thank you.
And I can get the information for you from the Fresno County
Okay,
Transit Authority as well.
perfect. Thank you.
If I could just give a quick update, I know for not everyone may have
I was going to
seen-
ask for that, but I didn't know if it was,
No,
if I could.
well, I was just basically wanting to, the reason for this item coming back was because the actual scope of the project's changed, and actually the road diet portion will be from Cherry and Truman intersection to Elm Avenue now, so it's not gonna be going all the way to the bridge. So based on the previous presentation from Caltrans, some of the impacts that were gonna occur along that stretch, the lane configuration will change as you enter into town, as you pass over Cherry. That Truman will be a dedicated left, and then you'll continue on in town on the 1 lane going into town with the center turn lane.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Thank you so much, Sean.
Okay, now item 513. Councilman Bosberg.
Oh, okay. So this has to do with the city's website. I hear from people all the time that ask me, you know, why isn't this on there and why isn't that on there? So I figured, hey, let's just have the give a review period for the public that if you see that something's missing or you would like something, you know, maybe we could take that into consideration and council or, you know, staff sees something. I think it's a good, you know, thing to maybe every couple of years look into this and update it a little bit to make it, you know, take some things out, move things around. So I just kind of wanted to also understand how is the public going to participate in this?
So if council approves this item, the plan would be that we have like a 30-day review period. We would post it on the city social media page and on Facebook. And also there's a message box on the city utility bill. And so we can place a message there. People can email in on info@coalinga.com. And then we would also have a time period where they could come into City Hall and leave information if they'd like. Not everybody wants to email something in. So if they prefer to handwrite it and drop it off, they can. Or if they want to call and go over where something is, maybe they just don't know where to find something. They're not sure if it's there. We just want to be available so that they can make whatever recommendations. And then if there's things we can do internally as staff, like it just doesn't make sense that something is where it is, we can change that. But any additions, we would bring back a report to the council of these were the suggestions we received and get direction of what you'd like to incorporate onto the website.
All right, thank you.
I just wanted to let you
This
know,
is the person that would be making all the changes.
I just wanted to let you know that starting in September, we're going to be doing a website redesign. So that's going to be a really good time to kind of, you know, like look at the stuff that is there, what should be there, what shouldn't be there, what's missing, that kind of thing. So that should be happening fairly soon.
So we're talking this September, like
Yeah.
soon?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
That's when the process will start. And also, I think maybe we could potentially add another avenue of feedback, like through the app as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is that it, council? We have an approval of the consent calendar?
I'll motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Schindler,
Aye.
Councilman Vosberg,
Aye?
Mayor Horn.
Aye. Okay, next item is item number 6, ordinance, presentation, discussion, and potential action items. Item number 1 is discussion and direction regarding natural gas rates. Dan Bergman.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. It's always good to be back in Coalinga, and on a day like today to be inside. It's hot outside. Before I get into the slides, I just want to recap where we are. It was a year ago that I was here talking to you, City Council, saying we need to increase gas rates 50% to get through winter. And you supported that. And we went out and bought most of the city's gas needs before we got into winter to make sure that that would work. And in retrospect, as I presented when I was here a couple months ago, that was a really good decision because wholesale natural gas prices last winter just skyrocketed. What was written into that resolution, increasing rates 50%, was also the condition that they would drop 50% a year later, which is where we are right now. And in addition to that, the requirement for a gas purchase policy, which the city hasn't had, but has become critically important because of the volatility in the natural gas market. So when I was here a couple months ago, you approved that. So the context in which I'm presenting to you tonight is gas purchase policy report number 1, because a requirement of the gas purchase policy is annual reporting to the City Council before the end of August on how it's going and what we need to do for rates in the coming year. So that's what I'm doing right now. So when we look at the next slide, it outlines the components of the gas purchase policy. Status of wholesale gas purchases, which I'm going to talk about first. I'll tell you now that we are in compliance with the requirements of the gas purchase policy 2 months in. That's not too hard. I have no recommended changes to the policy. Again, we're only 2 months in. But I'll talk about the financial status of the enterprise in addition to wholesale gas, and then the recommended rate decrease, which you've probably already seen, it's 20%. 20% decrease. So getting into it, you can see what happened last winter where prices were astronomical for a number of factors which I covered last time. I won't get into it again, but looking forward, the dashed line, the market is going back to some form of normality. Hasn't come down as much as where it was. It's a little bit higher than you see in that slide there. The bumps, of course, are winter prices. But we're back to normal, which is very helpful to keep gas rates normal. Moving ahead, this shows wholesale gas costs going back in time. You can see them creeping upward to where they peaked in fiscal 23. Again, it would have been much higher than that $2.2 million if we had not bought gas. But I'm also showing you where we are for fiscal 24, the winter that we are headed into, approaching that 22 level. Next. So this is the upper left-hand corner of the table in the gas purchase policy, showing that since you approved that, we've gone ahead and made 2 purchases. The way this is set up is 3 purchases for each winter made over 3 years. So we are layering in our gas supply. And another requirement of the policy is that all winter gas is purchased by November 1st of each year. So we are eliminating the risk of winter price volatility. 2 purchases have been made for this coming winter. It's compressed because of the gas purchase policy just being implemented. Gas at $5.51 per 10 therms or decatherm, and gas at $5.85. There's one more component to buy. I think I have a picture of it in the next slide. Good, yeah, that's it. So you see the months of the year here. You see how gas demand in the city peaks in the wintertime. You can see the gas that's been purchased for the winter so far, those 2 purchases, and the remaining gas that needs to be bought. In the suggested rate decrease that I'm putting before you, gas is actually a little bit less expensive in the model than it is now. Prices have gone up, but in my discussions with the suppliers, we're expecting that to settle a little bit. So we're okay at this point. In those other months, we buy gas at market prices because gas in the summer is a lot less expensive, and almost more important, you just don't use much gas in the summer. So there's not that much risk. Especially here, it's really hot. We're not heating in the summertime. Next slide. So this shows the scenarios going from gas supply to financial status for the enterprise. And I want to be clear with respect to the process. If you do nothing before winter or through the winter, rates will drop 50% because that's the way that resolution was written. That's a good way to get someone like me back to make sure something happens, which is what this is about right now. So if you do nothing, you see the 50% increase ending. That would put the enterprise about $500,000 short, which would cut $500,000 into about $1 million fund balance. Now that $1 million, for those of you who have been here for a while, we were trying to get the fund balance down to $1 million for 10 years and finally got it there, but then the market went crazy and we had to make corrections quickly. We're looking to maintain the fund balance at around $1 million. There's going to be capital needed eventually for improvements to the gas system. That could eat a lot or even more than that up. So if you do nothing, we're $500,000 in the hole. The 20% decrease meets the revenue requirement of that $3.3 million. If you just left it in place, we'd have $700,000 too much. We don't need the full 50% through this coming winter. Next slide. This shows the numbers. This is in your council packet as well. I circled that one in red to show how expensive gas got last winter, $2.1 million. The fiscal 24 number is modeled for the 20% decrease, which starts September 1st. So we've had the benefit of the 50% for July, August, and September as far as cash flow is concerned. The way I do this, I want to say it's simple, but it's not simple. We come up with what our projected expenses are, the largest component of which is gas, and then adjust the revenue so that there's enough money to pay the bills. And in this case, it's set such that there's just a little bit extra, $75,000, which is the same as zero, with variabilities. But that's the 20% increase. Next slide. Decrease. I've said a lot of this. There were 2 consecutive rate increases into 2 consecutive years. Now we are managing this, and the city will need to continue to manage this more closely because of volatility in the market. Next. Here's the rate table. When I was here before, I showed you a 12% decrease, so it actually got a little stronger to a 20% decrease. This is the rate table that's attached to the resolution. Next slide. And that's it. So we're in a much better place than we've been. I'm so glad the city has the gas purchase policy in place. It adds discipline and accountability. That's been, the discipline has happened because I've managed it so closely over the years. But I'm not going to be here forever. Nobody will be here forever. Now we have a city council approved policy, which is very valuable going forward. You have a resolution that supports this decrease. It'll be good through the winter, and we'll need to be back again next August and every August to revisit where natural gas rates should be. One more comment. If you were PG&E or SoCal Gas, your gas rate would be adjusted every month because that's how they do it. They adjust the commodity cost of gas every month. We have the benefit here of managing the utility more closely. We can set the rates annually and balance annually and still be okay. Thank you.
Any questions?
Yeah, I have a few questions. So what's the difference in between the rates that we paid buying gas in the winter now compared to what we paid when we bought them at very expensive prices?
You mean the wholesale cost?
Correct.
So going back, Larry, can you go back to the slide that shows the gas price trend? These are monthly postings of wholesale gas values. So you can see, okay, that's going back to January of 19. Under $5 until we got to 2022, looking at $10 and then skyrocketing.
But I mean, when we bought, because you said we just purchased our first set, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
what we purchased at compared to where that it was? Like, what's our savings for doing that so far?
Oh,
Like,
I presented that at the last meeting, Councilman. It was enormous. I think I calculated it would have cost each resident something like $200 additional through the winter. It was a huge number because the January posting was $40 for all the gas. We have bought gas ahead at $5 and $6. And then as I managed that through January, I was looking for days when gas prices were down, which we accomplished. So I think that answers your question.
Yeah, and so when we had the resolution built and it was that we were gonna raise them up 50% and then they were gonna drop 50%, what was that based on to say that within a year that we would be able to come back and basically zero out that number? What was that based on? What was that research based on to be able to do that? Because now we're saying, and believe me, I'm happy that we can drop it 20%, but like, I'd love to be able to say, hey, we could drop it 50%, and I'm scared that you've said, hey, I need to keep coming back, because what I can see is, hey, we were thinking we were gonna drop it 50%, but we're dropping 20, and then you're gonna come back and say, we need to up it 30%, which now actually means that we've actually just gone up, up, and we haven't really gotten a savings. It's just teeter-totter back and forth to go upwards. And so that's what I'm worried about.
Yeah. So the way I would answer that is going to the purchase policy. The variable here is wholesale gas costs. It's not people or anything else, or electricity like with other utilities. It's the cost of the gas itself. The way the policy is structured is we are layering in our wholesale gas supply over 3 years, buying it a third at a time. So the answer to your question is what happens will be gradual, and you'll see it coming. Because you'll see, for example, before we get to November 1st, we need to finish buying gas for this winter, but we need to buy gas 2 and 3 winters out. And so,
Does this include, are we doing any capital repairs with the money that we have in here? Because if I see that we have like $1 million, you know, it's set aside for capital repairs, you know, are we using any of that money for capital repairs? I mean, have we done any capital repairs?
Not recently. There hasn't been any kind of highly recommended capital needs at this point. And then especially as the market shifted drastically, it kind of stalled any additional plans that we had. When that cash was higher and we brought it down, it came down really fast in 1 year. When we, like Dan said, our goal was to bring it down slowly,
Right.
lower rates, but then in 1 year, I mean, we lost $1 million or more just in that reserve in 1 year, where it could have taken us out probably more years, but unfortunately, the rates just skyrocketed for wholesale gas.
yeah,
Well, the
Larry,
reason I
can you-
ask is because I think I remember during the slides that I wasn't on council, that part of the reasoning for the increases was because we were gonna replace inodes, we were gonna do things like that, and now, that's why I'm asking, have we made repairs on those inodes? Have we done that?
Those haven't been, I mean, they get inspected once a year. Actually, our inspection's coming up pretty soon this year, but there haven't been any like complete failures of the anode beds at this point.
Well, I'm just saying, if we used it as a
But
reason to say
eventually-
we need
but
to
eventually
raise
that
rates, and then we didn't do it, but we still raised rates, and then we're talking about, hey, we had a system to where it was gonna come down 50%, but now it's actually only coming down 20%, and then we're being told that, hey, at the beginning of the, next year, we could be talking about increases again, you know, that, the idea that, hey, it's gonna go here, and then it's gonna come back down here, that idea that I think was sold to the public because of needs for maintenance and things like that, that idea is actually not being followed through with, and I wanna know why. I wanna know, like, we didn't make the things that we said we were gonna do. We said we needed to increase the gas funds for maintenances and repairs that we didn't do. And then it was said that, hey, we would get a 50% drop, which we're not getting. We're getting a 20% drop, and then it's gonna particularly, I mean, it could go back up because we're gonna be coming back to revisit this. And so to me, it just seems like a teeter-totter back and forth, and as someone that's a ratepayer and someone who has to answer to people that listen to this stuff and then ask me what happened, why isn't this falling through, that's why I'm asking these questions, because
Well,
I'd like
and-
to keep track of it.
Yeah, as Dan mentioned, I mean, a lot of it's market driven. I mean, I don't even know what the percentage is. It's a very high percentage of the cost within the enterprise fund is the cost of gas.
Did we think that we were going to be able to buy gas at a cheaper price, and that's why we didn't, but we weren't able to buy it at a cheaper price, and that's why it didn't come down the 50%, and that's why we're not recommending that?
if I may, when I was recommending to the city and city council for the 50% increase last year at this time, I was seeing the crisis coming and very much saw that as a short-term issue. Larry, could we go to the revenue expense slide? Because I want to point something out. No, the one that, yeah, that one. If you look at the operating income line, in fiscal 20, it was minus 60, fiscal 21 minus 400, fiscal 22 minus 700, and you see the fund balance on the bottom. Well, that was the end of many years of trying to bring the fund balance down. So the important point that I'm making is when we started moving the rates back upward, the first thing we were doing is stopping the decrease. So that's why these percentages are high. As far as the
Doesn't really answer my question. I'm sorry. But when you said that, it started this by saying, hey, we were going to drop it 50%, and now we're not. We're only dropping it 20%, which is good. But why? What is the reason for even making a resolution saying we're going to drop it 50%? We're raising it, and then we're going to drop it back down, but then hold on, now we're going to only do 20. So what's the reason for that? People should know. I want to know the reason. I think, some people in the audience are at least wondering, why is that?
Well, that one's my recommendation. And at that point of crisis a year ago, what I definitely knew is we need to adjust rates to get through the winter. And by the way, when you look at it for fiscal 23, it's showing 86,000 in the black. It turned out just right. The 50% increase through the past winter was just right. As far as the correction back to where it was, that wasn't, I don't know if I would call that an assumption or just a default, because my position at that point was, let's just get through the winter with a rate that will cover expenses, and then we will revisit this right now.
And it wasn't a 50% decrease from what was increased. It was resetting it back to what they were when the 50% increase went into effect. So when the 50% increase went in, the resolution was that if we did nothing, that as of September or November 1st, they would reset back to the previous rates prior to the 50%.
Right, which was a 45% increase to begin with, and then hit with a 50% increase, which made it a 95 or 96% increase.
That's right.
Correct. So it still, to me, was bottled and sold to the public that there was a reset, and now we're not talking about resetting. And that's the point I want to make. Because when we say things like that to people, we should follow through, and if not, we should say why. Why are we not doing that? And that's what I want to know. I want to know the why. And I'm not blaming Mr. Bergman. Absolutely not. He does a great job at what he does, and without him, we would be in a worse off position. But the public has a right to know why. And if nobody knows why, that's fine. But that's just my question.
Well, I guess the market didn't drop enough.
So here's the answer. It's not an answer we want to hear, but when you look at gas costs, the wholesale gas cost line, just going from left to right, 570, 679, 1.3 million, 2.1 million, and now we look at where we are for the winter we're heading into, it's still 1.3 million. It's not back down to 700,000. That's the difference. The wholesale gas market, which we now have a tool to control through the gas purchase policy.
Thank you.
Now, do we have any excess gas that wasn't used? Because I'm sure with the price hike, the citizens didn't use as much gas.
I wish.
You're not able to buy a wholesale certain amount. You have to buy it each month or each quarter.
Well, we're buying it ahead by seasons.
Right. Where's the extra gas at, is what I'm asking you. That wasn't used. That's already been paid for.
Oh, right. I see what you're asking.
Because that can affect the change of the rate
Yeah.
too, because we've already got it. There's no sense in charging
complicating
double
the
dipping.
answer, when we make the purchases, we don't purchase more than we know we're going to need. So it's always a little less than we know we're going to need. And then the balance of it is at the market price, the monthly price or the daily price.
So do we have a balance remaining?
No,
We have no gas left
no,
from the previous purchase?
no.
Okay.
And actually, last winter, we used record amounts of gas last winter. Probably one of the highest, I think, on record.
Yeah, it was cold,
Yep.
even here.
So is that part of the effect of what's going on right now then? That we overused gas or used more than usual?
Well, when the gas purchases were made going into last winter, we were basing the volumes on average winter, but it was colder. So that meant we had to buy more of the expensive gas since the city's demand was up. But it also meant the city sold more gas. That's why the numbers balanced out. So that all worked out.
Is that kind of answering your question about the extra expense was where it's taking away from what we could have done?
Yeah, no, I understand. I just, for the public's point of view, when you have a report that says something, then I just think there should be, an explanation for it. And you explained it, and your question, or your answer also did. And so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any more questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we need to vote.
I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution.
And I'll second that. Roll call, please.
Councilman Vosberg,
Aye.
Mayor Horn,
Aye.
Councilman Schindler,
Aye.
Okay, we move on to our next item, number 2. Discussion, direction, and potential action related permitting small accessory structures within the required setbacks of reverse corner lots. Sean.
Evening, Mayor, Council. This is one of the items that never ceases to go away, right? So at the previous council meeting, council requested staff provide some insight to the street side yard setbacks and some of accessory structures, maybe small accessory structures. And then in that discussion, the council requested staff provide, some possible options that council could use as a discussion piece to identify if that's something that the council be interested in moving on through a zoning text amendment to allow, any type of maybe small or any type of accessory structure by definition within that required setback for reverse corner lots specifically. In the report, I included an exhibit. Hopefully, I'm not sure if Larry's got it up for me. Thank you, Larry. That kind of explains the area that we're talking about in relation to reverse corner lots. So you can see where accessory structures are currently permitted in the rear yards of properties. And then specifically in the top right is the reverse corner lot. And then you have your key lots to your left. The discussion area is really the area that has, can be fenced in essentially due to the, not having those specific fencing requirements within reverse corner lots. However, the current code as read does not allow for accessory structures to be within that setback area. So they're not allowed or permitted in that area. And that was what Councilman Schindler had requested, is to come back to have that for the council to have a discussion as to whether or not you guys would be interested in permitting accessory structures. And I provided some definitions of what accessory structures are, specifically residential accessory structures, which are customarily, accessory structures that are customarily, accessory to, or, accessory to the residence, like garages, greenhouses, storage sheds, studios, swimming pools, workshops, detached covered decks and patios, uncovered decks that are over 18 inches, and then any other similar structures, including ground-mounted solar voltaic panels. So staff provided some, not necessarily recommendations. We don't have any recommendations, but it's more for the council's discussion to try to provide or provoke some discussion with the council in terms of whether or not you want to permit them or you don't want to permit them, whether they would be permitted within the fenced area, whether you limit maybe the size, height, type of structure. Building permits trigger certain accessory structures trigger building permits. Some don't. If they're under 120 square feet, they wouldn't necessarily trigger a permit. So you could maybe say any accessory structure that's not a permitted structure could be within that setback. Limit heights, the type of structure, whether it be a shed, pergola, but maybe not a permanent, like a swimming pool. Or, like I said, just allow temporary accessory structures. So with that, hopefully that covers, I think, mostly my report, the exhibits up there if you guys have any questions. But I'll be more than happy to answer any questions or allow you guys to kind of discuss what you guys would like to do.
Councilman Schindler?
Yeah. I think I'd like to see at least a non-permitted structure be allowed in that area.
Okay. So that'd be like make small sheds, you know, anything that's not considered permanent, or requires a building permit, essentially, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Behind fenced or unfenced or both?
Within the fence.
Within a fenced
Within a
area.
fenced area, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so you can see where the fence doesn't necessarily go all the way to the front of the house, and that's due to that corner cutoff. And that corner cutoff, as we've discussed in the past, that there are requirements in terms of distances in the code, but it also gives the authority of the city engineer to determine on a case-by-case basis safety and visibility based on where that stop bar is, based on the specific intersection, whether it comes out of an alley or a driveway, whether that corner cutoff can be reduced or improved, but that fence can never go any further than the front yard at 6 feet high. So we'll want to make sure, and I just want to confirm it, you want it behind a 6-foot fence, right? Okay.
Well, it should end at the corner of the house, correct? The corner of
In this
of the
case,
dwelling?
I used that purposely as an example or accidentally when Larry drew this, but it shows that because that fence hit the corner cutoff,
Right.
it can't go all the way to the front of the house. If it did, it would have to go along that corner cutoff and then come down to the house.
Yeah.
So as long as you have that angle of visibility, yeah. So part of that fence could go to the front of the house. It would have to just angle at the end.
Yeah, drop it down,
Yeah.
yeah. Any more? I think we're good.
Cool.
Do we need to vote on this tonight?
No, it's just, well, it sounds like I have a
Just
consensus.
till you get the changes?
No, I have a consensus, and essentially all it is the council directing staff to initiate a zoning text amendment, and we'll take that through the process, through the commission, and then back to the council.
So probably in a month.
Maybe longer. Takes 3 hearings, so public hearings and notices and everything too, so.
So probably
I'll have to
end
work,
of-
I'll have
end
to
of
work weekends,
October.
I apologize, I'll have to work weekends, so it's okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 6.3, discussion, direction, and potential action regarding authorizing battalion chief positions. Marissa.
Thank you. So a few city council meetings ago, you heard from the fire chief requesting 3 battalion chief positions, and he did a very detailed presentation on that. A lot of the information is here in the staff report that I can go over again if you'd like. Or I can just tell you what I was asked to do at that meeting was to look at the long-term financial sustainability of doing that. And so there are some changes we would have to make from the initial plan, but it is feasible. They're just internal changes within the general fund within the police department. So there'll be some minor changes and then some changes to the IGT allocations for staffing, but even the long-term sustainability looking 10 years out would be fine. It basically balances out to a 0 cost from the structure that we currently have now. And so this is just to report that back to you and see if the council would like to move forward with authorizing the city to fill the 3 battalion chief positions.
And there was actually a cost savings, correct?
Yeah, so I ran a couple spreadsheets and did a projection all the way out, and it's very minimal, but it's $3,189.58 cost savings over 5 years
Per year or altogether?
altogether.
Okay. Is that gonna be, you think that's roughly your estimate for the next
Yeah, this
15,
is
20 years?
worst case scenario. The entire department is maxed out in incentives, benefits, salary, everything. And with all the changes that we made internally to the general fund and IGT contribution, this is worst case scenario. And we still have a savings by going to 3 battalion chiefs over keeping status quo with the division chief and admin captain.
Okay, and it also keeps staff fully staffed?
Yes, sir.
Each shift now?
Yes, sir.
7 days a week?
Correct.
Okay. What would council like to do?
So, I just have a comment. So, I've done some research on this. I've spoken to the chief, I've spoken to Marissa numerous times about this. It sounds like that what they're talking about is you know, the exactness of it. I don't really have an issue with it. The only thing that I can say is that as a council person, we like to see something called continuity of government, which means that once we make a change, that we stick with it. Because it wasn't that long ago to where we were talking about, we need what was Mr. Beasley?
Division chief.
We were talking about we need a division chief, right? And in the last 10 years since I've been paying attention, we've changed this back and forth, not just this thing, but we went from having non-public safety to having public safety, EMTs. We've done all kinds of different things back and forth. And every time we're told that there's a huge advantage, and then we go to something different. And then it kind of wipes out. And so for me, and for I guess probably a lot of the public, it's hard to keep track of that. And so I would just hope that if we approve this, that we keep this standard and we say that this is what we're going to work on, because you do have people in the community that aspire to be, police officers and fire and things like that. And, they want to know, hey, where is it that I could work to? What could I get to what levels and whatnot? And then just people like me trying to figure out the budget. Thinking about it, what's a 10-year plan or a 5-year plan with the budget and those types of things. But I know you guys have put a lot of research into this, and I can say that I've been open to anyone that wanted to come and discuss it with me, and I haven't heard anybody, and this isn't a deal that I, personally think that council should micromanage. We have the chief here saying this is something that we should do, right? And that is your recommendation, right?
Yes, sir. And if I can say one thing to kind of help ease your mind, I didn't take this decision lightly or jump to conclusions when the division chief became vacant. I did my research as well, called multiple agencies, spoke to other fire chiefs, talked to command staff, figured out what the future of our department is going to look like down the road and how we are going to have our organizational structure. So this isn't something that I took lightly. This is something that I saw as long-term growth and a goal that we need to try and achieve.
And I agree with you, and I appreciate all the research that you've done, and I do agree with you on that, because, having growth in a department is one thing that if we don't have, we won't attract people to come. And people won't want to be here because of, all kinds of different issues, but if they can't grow in the department, that's a real big deal. So, with that being said, I have no more questions, and I appreciate all the work that you and the city manager and everyone else has done surrounding this.
I'll make a motion to go through with it as authorizing for the battalion chief positions, as the chief has requested.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Horn,
Aye.
Councilman Schindler,
Aye.
Councilman Vosberg.
I also vote aye.
Okay, we'll move on to our next item, the announcements, city manager's announcements.
I only have one. We do have the remote video proceedings through Fresno County Superior Court here in the council chambers again Wednesday mornings. That is something that if it's not utilized, they will likely take back. So if you have a traffic ticket or you need to see a judge for something and get on a calendar, or you need help with some court paperwork, there's a lot of different things that they can help with. They're here from 8:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. on Wednesdays, unless it's a holiday, and they're here in the council chambers. So I just want to encourage everyone to take advantage of that program while it's here.
I have a quick question on that, though. Is there any way that we can get a flyer on, like, windows at a gas station or a grocery store, or something that people frequent a lot, so they can actually get the information in other ways?
We can print some flyers and try to spread them out throughout the community. We have them information going out on the utility bills in that message box, and then the information is on the city's website, and I know Mary's put it in the paper for us. It's on our website. It's also on the Fresno County Superior Court website. So we're just trying to get the word out to get people to take advantage of it, because we hear a lot that people don't like having to drive to Fresno for things, and now we have something here, and it's been going on for 4 weeks now, and only one person has come in throughout that time.
I don't know, that's either a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know. One person, that's pretty good. Okay, council members, do you have any announcements or reports?
So I have one. I'm getting reports in the Echo Canyon and Fox Hollow areas that we're seeing an increased amount of minors on ATVs riding at the city streets at high rates of speed. According to the neighbors, they call and they complain, and they're, you know, and I never say that everything's true, but, you know, they're saying nothing can be done about this. And so I'm just putting it out there that, you know, there's laws and rules that have to do with ATVs and, you know, like that, and so.
Does our ordinance still say that they have to push, they have to walk it or trailer it?
It actually falls under the vehicle code. So registration, insurance, and all that good stuff like that has to be on there before they can ride it on the road.
So everything has to be pushed or trailered, okay. Anything else? The only one I have is, school started yesterday, and I've talked to a few of the teachers and some of the students, and everything went really, really well. I know my child, for instance, this is her senior year, and she was really nervous, and when she came home, she had a big smile on her face. They made every senior welcome, all the students welcome. Okay, next item is future agenda items. I have one. For our city billing, is there a way we can check in to see what the actual cost would be to do digital billing for people that would like to get it digitally instead of paper to kind of save us a little bit of money?
I'll add that as a future agenda item.
And that's it for now. So that's it for now. We've got,
I have a future agenda item.
go ahead.
Mayor. Sorry.
You do have
Apologize. I would like a future agenda item for the city to, one, to put out a press release on ATVs and what's legal use of it. And then two, to look into a plan of enforcement when they're called. I know we used to have, I remember I was on council when we approved it. We had a vehicle that used to go into that was capable of going into the,
They just got it repaired.
so we do we have that? We have it repaired? Okay, so I'd like to see about trying to, I mean, the guy that called me on the phone said his 2-year-old almost got hit. Like the 2-year-old was inches from getting hit. And yeah, and this isn't only one person. That was that incident, but I see him coming down, flying down Forest Street, getting ready to head right into the thing. And I know, I kind of grew up here a little bit, and, you know, we did some of those things. And so it's interesting and ironic that I'm up here talking about this. But we need to work on, you know, some safety measures in that. If there's a way that we could work on ATV safety and press release to inform the public and some kind of like enforcement mechanism, maybe get some more patrolling in those areas. You know, that would be great. And that's it. That's all I have.
Anything for you? Nope. Okay, well, we're going to move on to, we got 3 items for closed session. Other than that, this meeting is adjourned.